It was great. It was a real pit village. Everybody knew everybody, and you looked after each other. If somebody was hurt in the pit, everybody gathered round and helped them. If somebody was ill and couldn't work, all the neighbours helped. And if you had the broth pan on, was the washing bowl that you used, full of broth. And it was an old couple, old folk living next door. You took a basin into them. You shared. Now it's grab.
Different times.
Different times.
And
it was fun. We had plenty to do. We made things to do. And of course, everybody in the street was together. We played games in the street, which you can't do now. We used to play games in the street. We played one called Cannon, and one called Kick the Block.
Tell us about those games. How did you play them?
Well, Kick the Block, you had a tin in the middle of the square, and one that was guarding it, and the other had to get it. If you ran through and kicked the block, that was your winner. And the other one was Cannon, and you had two teams, one each side of the road, and had the tin on its end, and you had 4 sticks, 2 this way and 2 that way on the top. And you had one ball, and you threw the ball, and if you hit the tin, knocked it over, you had to run and get the sticks back on, and the other side had to stop you. And that was one game, and 2 games.
You used to use the railway quite creatively, the railway track.
Well, we used to get the flip tops off the pub bottles, around one with a cork in. And I used to swish the cork out and put the top on the railway lines. And when the train went over, it was flattening. Now, if they got a good flat, if the train hit it right, it'd come out nice and flat, and just the size of a penny. And we used to put it in the chocolate machine in the station. Get a bar of chocolate for a penny. And you got a refund on most bottles. When you bought anything, you had to pay extra. And we used to go around collecting the empties and taking them back and get the money. And then we used to go in the back of the club and get the bottles out of the club. Now, each club had its own stamp, like a postage stamp. They used to put on the bottles. And that was only pub that would take that bottle back. And we used to, before that, they didn't have any stamps, and they just went and got a bottle out the backyard and take it around the front and put it in and get a deposit. And go spend it. I went to the infant school at Hamsley College. And we were there till we were 11, I think, when we came down to Blackhall Mill. And from Blackhall Mill we went, sat the exams to go to the grammar school. Well, I was unlucky, I didn't get through the grammar school. They were the ones that passed that went to Hooker Gate. But Hooker Gate had to go till I was 16. But the school just carried at 14. And I went to school on a Friday, finished on a Friday, leave school, And I started work on the Monday, straight from school to the work.
Before you tell...
My sister and her husband lived in Blackhall when they were 31 or 32. And it's 32 now. They lived in 31 and then they moved with 32. And it's set back off the road. Now I came home from work. My mum said, "You pop down and see if Connie's house is all right, because it's a flood." And they were on holiday. So I came down and went, and the road, there was water. I was across the road and it's just flapping on the flat in front of the house. So it was all right, and the flood didn't get anything. But I said to come home, and I had to go over the bridge. And as I got the bridge, there's a young nurse came off the bridge. She'd been shot on the bridge, and she turned to go down like on it. I said, "Where you going, pet?" She said, "I'm going to my sister's." I think it's something. Anyway, it was set back off the main street. You had to go through the alleyway, and there was two or three houses. She was going there. So I said, "Well, she said, I'll have to go. She'll be worried about this." So I said, "Here, hold on." And I picked her up and I carried her through I was up here in the water, carried her. And we got to the house, and they had sandbags at the door. They were just the level of the water. And so I stood on the top, and she was trying to get in the door, and somebody across the road shouted, "She's gone to Chopwell." And then I said, "Oh, I'll have to go to Chopwell." And what did she do? She just turned around and stepped in the pond. It was up to here in the water. So I had to take her down to the bottom end of the mill so to get the bus to Chopwell. That was one of my skills.
One second. I noticed there was something in there. Do come in.
When the river was high, he used to sit on the iron railings from the bridge, iron railings. He would sit on there, went to school, and watch the trees and stuff. There's nothing to see a pigsty go or a pig go past, because the bird has a lot of allotments, and they were down water level, and when they had a flood, water went over there and picked the chickens up. Chicken could go down with a chicken on the top. We used to count them. That was a part of the life of the flood.
So yeah, there wasn't that bank there.
It was good. And it was a good school. I think we had the best math teacher in the district.
Who's that?
Mr. Fowler. And the English teacher was Mr. Fawcett. He was a good one and all. He left Blackhall and went to Hooker Gate grammar school, and he finished his time up there.
And what were your memories of it as a school? How did you find it?
I like to go to school. I like to learn things. And of course we had a woodwork room. We did woodwork. And I was quite good at the woodwork. And I was the local joiner for the school. I used to go and put shelves in the cupboards. That was great. Having the chisel and going to the classroom, and they were all sitting there. And that was, from there on, I wanted to be a joiner. And when I left school, I became a joiner.
But you had another...
The first job was at the pit and the screens. I went to see the pit manager, apply for a job, and what I wanted to do. I said, I'd like to be a joiner. Oh, he says that there's no need for a joiner just at the minute. We'll have an apprentice, so you won't But he says, if you start at the screens at the pit, we'll put your name down for a joiner when it came around. Well, I worked 1 week at the screens, and I came home from work on a Saturday morning, and I was getting washed. And the manager from the screens came knocking on the door, and boss mother, "What are you doing now?" "Oh, nothing, mother, nothing." "What are you doing?" He must have done something when he's come. And when he came, he said, the boss wants somebody in the garden. He has an old pensioner looking after the garden, and it's getting a bit too much for him. He wants somebody to do the heavy work and that. He said, would Doug like to come in? He said, get the same wages at the pit, and same times. I said, well, anything better than the pit. And I went there and learned quite a lot about gardening. And after about 6 months, my dad and the colliery manager had a row, fell out. My dad was lieutenant in the Home Guard, in charge of the Home Guard, and was something to do with the Home Guard business. And of course, my dad wouldn't listen to the boss. He was in a row, and those come straight home to the garden, and I was supposed to go home for my dinner at 12 o'clock. But the old gardener was one of the old school. If he was doing something, it had to be finished before he went home. So I stopped, and I was still late, 12:30, when the boss came home for his dinner. He comes straight to the garden and, "Get home, you're finished, I don't want you anymore." So I got finished. And my dad said, he says, we'll get a scanner shortly. Went along to Shortley, and the firm at Shortley Bridge, Roxby Surtees. Well, my dad knew the boss. He knew the Surtees, because my granddad had been a joiner, and he'd worked for Surtees. In fact, he taught young Mr. Surtees how to be a joiner. He took him under his wing. So I got the joining job, and I worked there 50 years. 50 years. And 2 years part-time after that. All of that was a little wooden hut next to the co-op, and it was just over from the picture hall. And we used to go in there, get a penny of pea pods, and get jersey up, and take them to the pictures. And of course, we used the pods, eat the peas, and the pods went on the floor, and you could hear the crunch, 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 anybody moved about. And she used to go to the pictures at night and sit through the pictures. And when the picture finished, she used to dash across the road and open the shop again. For anybody coming out the pictures wanted to get the shops, they used to go in and she used to serve them. And when my wife was expectant, she had a crush for peaches. They will have something that they want. When she had this crush for peaches. And many a night, I've been ready to go to bed, and she'd say, "Oh, I want a peach, I want a peach." Gone down to Atlas and get a couple of peaches. And I used to come down the pit, get it before I come into the dance. And that was blood and thunder. We used to have a matinee on a Saturday for a penny. You got a good show, There was had a serial, Lone Ranger, all this. Continue next week, so I had to go back next week to see what was happening. That was it, the pictures. Well, that was the main road from Amsley Bank Top down to Long Close. That's the Scots Road. Footpath. And on a Sunday night, you went down the chicken run, hoping to meet a lady. If you didn't get one going down, you had a chance of getting one going back. Lots of people got together that way, going down the chicken run. That was the chicken run. Well, the road is made up, and it was made up from the footpath on this side to the width of the bridge steps. And the other bit wasn't made up. It was soil, hard pressed. Now it was a grand place for marbles. There was 2 or 3 marble pitches. There were 3 holes. And you played marbles, you went up the holes. You had to get the hole and one and go on to the next one. If you were lucky, you got straight up. But if you didn't hit it, the mate was next. He could knock your marble out the road, and you had to come back to the start, and he went on. And that was marbles. Now, we used to go home, have dinner, and come straight back for a game of marbles before I went into school. And this day, I was so enthralled in this game of marbles, I nearly missed the bell for school. And I went in, my hands were dirty. So I think it was the maths I went into. And, get out, go and get your hands washed, and go to Miss Whitfield's. Well, Miss Whitfield was a sewing teacher. That's where down off the road in the lasses road. So that was then the marbles in school time. Well, on side the bridge was a bit of a green. That was the boxing pitch. If you fell out fault with anybody, meet them on the pitch after school.
Was there a lot of that?
Eh?
Was there a lot of that going on?
Oh, yes. But it was just hitting the head and go. It wasn't jumping and kicking and biting. It was just
Queensbury rules.
a couple of punches and one was enough. But that was the cross of...
Because there was a herb that was...
Oh, yes. In Hampstead, there was gangs, Park Road gang and Jubilee gang, and he used to meet across the tub lines, chucking bricks.
Is that the one you mean? There's like a bridge thing for the tubs.
There was one beside the ambulance station. That was a bridge across over to school, from Park Road to school. It's back, but at night time, when you have it a bit stiff, you were throwing bricks at each other across the... And everybody had a bonfire. And at night time, you would get together and go box of matches and go across there, see their bonfire and set fire to it. And then we had to guard yours in case they come back and did yours. But that was always trouble in bonfire night.
Every year, yeah, we've heard a few of those stories.
It was Low Westwood store, not back. There was a store back home, but ours was Low Westwood.
And what was it called? What was it called again?
I think it was Bladen store, branch.
What do you remember about it?
Everything.
Go on, tell us about it. What was it like?
Well, all the things had their own department. The hardware, the drapery, in the shoes, and then the grub itself, the food. All the stuff was in bags. It was very little wrapped. You could watch the man cutting the butter. He used to have a big bale of butter, and they put a way around it so far, and they pulled the wire, and it cut it. So that was so much on the top. Then they cut that with a knife and packed it. Everybody got a pack of butter and made it as you wanted it.
And what about the hardware store? What would you go in there for? What would you get from the hardware store?
Well, polish, cleaning, carpet sweeper, zebra, gate polish, everything you like, soap, Coleman starch, dry soap, but that was blocks of soap, that was carbolic.
Have a smell of that bit of carbolic down there, Dougie, on the bench.
Yeah, carbolic. For about £6.
Remember that smell?
Yeah.
Tell us your story about the carbide. So,
Well, they sell it loose.
I'll not use the question, so you need to say the word carbide.
Carbine
Yeah.
used to sell loose for the pit lamps. One time it was all candles, but they graduated into gas lamps. And they were run with carbine. And the carbine was in one chamber of the lamp, and the other one had water in. And the water used to drip on the carbine and cause a gas, which came through the spout, and it was lit. And that's where they got the light from. It lasted longer than a candle.
Good idea. What would you use the carbide for?
What?
What would you use the carbide for?
I'm not telling you that, that's a secret. There's a fishing at the gate.
He's not real. Go on, tell us.
We used to get bits of carbine and put it in a treacle tin, with a clip-on lid and a heating tone with a hole in the bottom, and put a little bit of carbine in the tin, and then it dropped water, and it formed a gas. But with the lid being tight, the gas had to come out the bottom, the hole at the bottom, and we used to put it light, and they'd blow the tin lid off. That was our cannon.
Lovely. Grand stuff. So would you use some of this stuff in the home?
Oh,
Did your
yes.
parents use this?
Yes.
Do you remember some of this stuff being in your house?
Of course, all of it. Carbolic soap was good scrubber. All the polishes. Tins of polish. In a box. Clothes pegs. Brass roll for the polishing of the brass. And you could get any sort of polish you want.
Let's move up here a bit, Dougie, see what else there is. Bring this with us.
A shovel. Pit shovel round. Wire netting for the chicken.
For the what? Chicken coops.
Yeah. For the chicken run. Lamp glasses. Garden roller, tin bath.
So do you remember this sort of bathroom?
Eh?
Did you have to use a bath like this,
Yes, right until it must have been 50s, early 50s. I think
How did the bath time ritual go?
we used to fetch it out in the middle of the floor and heat the water in a kettle, or if you had a look at it, boil it at the side of the fire and put the water in. It was first then go to the bath, the other one I got a screw. All in a one bath, one after the other.
Who went last?
Eh?
Who went last?
The one they couldn't catch.
The baby.
Dear,
The baby out with the bath water.
Yeah.
two in the bath together.
Yes, yeah.
In the tin where.
Hold on here, Diggy, hold on here. Just got to bring it.
This be the kind of
That's a
thing?
can. No, that's a can.
That's a can.
You should carry it. The lid will come off if you're carrying it. The tin bottle,
Tin bottle.
just like a bottle. There's sure to be one there in the tin house. You get a jam in there. The copper kettle. All the lamps. And grinders. Food grinders and choppers. Tin mugs. Paint pots. Tin pots.
No tin bottles up there.
Around the house, yes.
They weren't very,
Correct.
they must have been very trusting, must they?
Just give her your money in a bill. Just put it in the chute and just go to the cashier. And they took the money in the change and then sent it back. Sewing machine. Ringer. Washer. And then Eli. To work the washer. And then she go through there. Through the doors, and the water came back in the. Oh, lino. Yeah, lino.
Did you have that in your
Floor
house?
covering.
Did you have lino in your house?
Oh, yes. Oh, you had carpets. You look if you had lino, and I mean, what else?
This one up for you.
Made a game after it called Mousetrap. The other day, lady said if you go next door, you'll see.
Yeah, the cash office is on the other side.
tin bottles to stick with the wall. We haven't got a one, we can't find one.
What did you look for?
Tin bottle.
Alright.
Yeah.
Tin bottle.
Don't please have any in here.
Second, go.
In the backyard, we had a big wringer. 2 hands to turn big rollers. Now, me and my mate were playing in the yard, and the colliery mason was doing something in the house. He left his bottle on the wall, beside the wringer. So my mate turned the wringer, and I shoved the bottle in. It's come out flat. I got flat and all.
Soft landing, eh? Like steps up are better than steps down. Yeah.
It's the other way you can get round and there's no steps, but it is a longer way through the fairground.
In the house, wasn't it? I can remember that. December. It's a funny name, though. It is.
Sorry, Dougie.
I think my other granddad worked at that office in the town, at the railway car. Train from High Westwood to Raleigh.
No, you have to go through constantly.
She lived in Concert. Yeah, so she knows where the station was.
I think I know where it was, yeah.
Many nice.
Where that roundabout, yeah.
Well, that's
You know
maybe
what I mean?
the Traveller's Rest, isn't it?
Where the old Tesco was.
Yeah.
Right move. So
Oh, yes, I
it's
do.
like around
Top of Delson.
Yeah. I mean, there's no train running, but there's no one anyway.
No, it's not in Francesca's risk assessment. Evelyn remember about the milk. I don't know. Bit before your time.
Blackhall.
One second, Dougie.
Telford, Middlesbrough, Stockton and Darton. Darton and TV and Penrith. Darton, Bishop and Blackhall. Whitby and Stockton, it didn't tell you it changed. Northallerton and Hart. Middlesbrough. Yeah. Darton and Stockton.
No, not. See Lynn's Green. Did you ever go to Lynn's Green station?
Lynn's Green. Nah.
Yeah, Lynn's Green's up
Lynn's
from
Green
there.
what?
Rollins.
Where's that now?
That was the one, that was the main one apparently before High Westwood started.
Oh, and Lynn's Green before Westwood. Aye, Lynn's Green. Aye. Oh, that's where Lord Gott used to get off the train
Yeah?
and go to Hampstead Hall. He used to walk down the lane. Hampstead Hall.
Didn't have a chauffeur.
Eh?
He didn't have a chauffeur.
Oh, and, couldn't afford to show us. He showed up. After the war, he came out. Edinburgh and Edinburgh, shortest route between London and Edinburgh and between Perth and North Scotland. Oh, that's a good cool fair there.
Did you have a fire in the station waiting room at High Westwood?
I sometimes, office was downstairs. The office was downstairs and the waiting room was upstairs.
Oh, all right, yeah.
There's nobody up there to look after it.
That's right, because there was a big canopy, wasn't there, over the stairs going up. I remember seeing that when they were building it.
I used to do my court on the down line in the station.
No, I can't
My
remember.
girlfriend lived at the dugout.
Remember the dugout? Was that built where the station was, or was it alongside of the station?
No, it's just below the station, and the dugout was, you come out the dugout and around the corner.
It was further down. Yeah, I remember that.
He only had one arm, but he had a brush. You put the brush on the table and the cue through the brush, and he's a really good player now, man. And he could get what it is, but he could take a shot, get the cue out the road and the brush out the road before the ball stopped.
Evelyn, he can tell you.
One second, I'm ready now, sorry.
Isn't that he had a paper business, he had a little caravan at High Westwood.
Oh,
Do you
yes.
remember the caravan at High Westwood?
No, I can't
Just
remember that.
On the road to Epchester.
Uh-huh.
But he had this caravan, but he used to spend his time when he's off down the snooker. He lived in 6 houses,
All right.
and he lived there, and he used to go there and play snooker
In the dugout.
in the dugout. And he only had one arm, and used to use the brush on the table to support the cue while he was firing. And he could take a shot and get his cue out the road and the brush out the road before the next ball got to it.
Excellent, excellent. No, I can't remember. I didn't know him. But with one arm, he managed all that.
Aye.
Excellent.
He ran a shop.
I wonder if that's related to Doreen Walton, who we were interviewing yesterday. Doreen Walton, could it have been her dad or something?
I don't know.
Not that can.
No.
So, 1 second. Tell us, what would you used to say, some of the things you used to get up to at the train station? I'm thinking the bottle tops.
We used to get the bottle tops off and take the bottle tops, take the cork out, put the lid on the line and wait till the train came along. And the train came along and it was flatten them. If you got a good fit, they came out nice, just the size of a penny. And we used to take them and put them in the slot machines, get a bar of chocolate for a penny, whole penny. And I was always pleased I was now there when the man had emptied the machines.
What about Epchester station, what happened there?
You used to get
Could you say at Epchester?
Epchester station, you get 2 Churchill cigarettes and a couple of matches out of the machine. I forget now what it was, a tanner or what, but if we get there.
And how old were you
We're
then?
going,
How old were you
oh, I was just a wee boy, 14. My brother was 16, I was 14. He used to read me straight.
Come with me, girls. And he sort of said, you've been smoking in the toilet, haven't you? Thinking, John McGee again, getting me in bother. And of course, yes, sir. Said, I'm sorry to have to do this.
Haven't seen it.
Telford burn.
Yes, I think you said that.
keys off. And my Auntie Bella, my dad's sister, had turned around and said, sorry, it's just your uncle just doing a bit of courting in the greenhouse. So he was getting the
Shunting engine, the main transport in the yard for shifting trucks. They come in and they're taken round the yard by the shunting engine. We called it the tanky, and it's been tanky ever since. They're responsible for moving the stuff in the yard. The coal comes out the pit, goes through the screens and onto the screens. It goes into the trucks. The trucks are weighed and they're formed up in the train, and then they're handed over to the North Eastern Railway, and they usually take them on to different places for putting them on the boat. And that's the top and bottom of it. The tanky, the main man on the yard.
Who the driver was?
The driver. But he wasn't very good with the fireman. It was a team. The fireman kept the steam up, and the steam drove the taxi.
Excellent. And you were a miner yourself, weren't you?
No,
No.
no. I just spent my time in the mining village. I was born in the village, and I was there till I was 49. I left. I got married
So
in
tell me,
1940.
how important was mining to the village?
It was the village. No mine, no money, no filage. And the thing was, there wasn't a lot of choice. Very few lads got out of the mines. The money in the mines was that poor. As soon as the lad was old enough to go down the mine, he had to get the job down the mine, because he couldn't get anywhere else. And his money had to keep the family. Some lads passed the scholarships and went to the grammar school. And the grammar school they had to be there till they were 16. But lots of lads never got finished. They got pulled out. They had to come up and take the work, because maybe their father had been hurt in the pit, but he had to come out and support the family.
Was your dad a miner?
My dad was a miner.
What are your memories of your dad being a miner?
I just him going out with his lamp in the morning and come back with his lamp at night. And he was on the transport side. He was on they called him I was telling him before, it's just not come at the minute, but he looked after the tub lines and the pulling the machines, the big drums and that, pulled on the cables. And if anything happened, he had to go back to work to put it right. He many times just sat out at his dinner and somebody knocked the door. Hey, Bill, you had to come and so-and-so's off the way, and he had to go and sort it out.
Brilliant.
See the package right.
That's us done, I think. You all right with that?
Yeah, that's...
Brilliant.